Today, we can buy necessities such as food, drinks, and clothing with the money or credit cards we have. But hundreds of years ago, people didn't have such an option. So what did they do? When was money invented? And how has it changed from past to present? Now let's take a historical journey together. In the days before money was invented, people used barter zones to meet their needs. This meant exchanging their surplus decomposables for other goods. For example, someone with fabric might exchange the produce they had grown in their field for cloth, or someone with a milk demand might trade their apples for another person who had work to do so. However, bartering had several options. If you needed fabric, you first had to find someone with extra fabric and agree to accept the money in return. Another problem was, for example, how many grams of wheat should be exchanged for 1 meter of fabric. Because there was no common unit in various exchanges, a cycle of confusion arose. In fact, sometimes a more valuable commodity remained available to purchase one commodity. In later years, various materials such as mussel shells, wood, and metal began to be accepted as common units and used as mediums of exchange. Among these, precious metals such as gold and silver were particularly suitable for use as mediums of exchange due to their scarcity in nature and ease of shaping. Because metals could be easily divided into smaller pieces, they allowed for full payment. However, the constant weighing of the metals during transactions made transactions more difficult. Later, to facilitate trade, metals of a certain weight began to be used as coins. The first coins were invented in the 7th century BC by the Lydians, one of the ancient civilizations of Anatolia. These coins, about the size of a broad bean, were composed of an alloy called electrum, a mixture of 75% gold and 25% silver. When minting Lydian coins, a movable upper die was placed on a fixed lower die, and the die was then struck with a hammer. This was called darbitmek. The word mint, used today for the place where coins are minted, also originates from this minting process. Incidentally, the world's first major mint was established in Istanbul by Mehmed the Conqueror during the Ottoman period. After the Lydians, the use of coins became increasingly widespread. In fact, minting money gradually became a symbol of power and sovereignty. Therefore, throughout history, states that gained independence often first minted money. Many of the coins, minted in different periods and with varying values and shapes, bore the image or seal of the rulers. The production of coins from precious metals like gold and silver increased their cost, and the difficulty of transporting them made trade difficult. Consequently, paper money emerged in later times, both less expensive and lightweight enough for people to carry around easily. Because of their durability, paper money was generally made from cotton, flax, and hemp fibers. The first paper money in history was used by the Chinese in the 9th century AD. Over time, with the establishment of printing presses, the use of paper money spread throughout the region. The person who introduced paper money to the European continent was the Italian traveler Marco Polo. At the end of the 1200s, Marco Polo visited China along the famous Silk Road trade route and described in The Travels of Marco Polo how paper money, made from the bark of mulberry trees, was produced and used. Following this, Europeans began to use written notes that functioned as a type of money. Over time, these handwritten notes were replaced by paper money. The first paper money in Europe was printed in Sweden in 1661, and the use of paper currency quickly spread across the continent. The Ottoman Empire began using paper money for the first time in 1840. This paper money, called kaimi, was originally handmade, but since this method was not very practical, printing began in 1842. In 1915, some changes were made to the currency, and its name was changed to evraka nakdiye. The first paper money of the Republic of Turkey was printed in 1927. These banknotes carried Ottoman Turkish inscriptions, but starting in 1937, they began to be printed using the Latin alphabet. Today, we meet most of our needs with credit cards, which first came into use in the U.S. in the 1950s. Credit cards, issued by banks specifically for the cardholder, contain a magnetic stripe or electronic chip that not only contains visible information such as the bank and cardholder's name and expiration date, but also invisible information such as PIN, spending limit, and spending amount. Credit card purchases are recorded on the magnetic stripe or chip on the card. This information is reported to the bank via a POS device at the location where the purchase is made. When the payment is due, the debt is repaid to the bank in cash or through mobile banking. Thanks to the internet, the need to physically use credit cards has also become obsolete. Today, it's easy to make purchases online using the information on the card. In recent years, with the widespread use of the internet, new concepts and practices in money and electronic commerce have begun to enter our lives. One of these is cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, which means encrypted money, refers to a virtual currency used online. Cryptocurrency technology is based on a payment system where numerous independent computers form a network. Unlike money used in everyday life, it has no centralized structure, such as a central bank, mint, private or public banks, and is not under the control of any single institution. The value of cryptocurrencies is determined by whether users view them as a means of exchange or investment. This value fluctuates based on real-time supply and demand conditions in the market. Considering the changes that money has gone through from past to present, what kind of technologies do you think will be used instead of money in the future?